Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. The topics on the table today, we are going to do a match review because for the first time in probably about 3 years, we didn't do a match review last night. So I definitely want to dive into the details of the game. We're going to talk about Bruno Fernandes. We're going to talk about the Geovany Quenda deal off and him joining Chelsea, which has surprised absolutely everyone. And also some interesting quotes from Thomas Tuchel on Marcus Rashford and a few of the other Manchester United players. So we'll start off with a game, Shreyas. What was your immediate feeling after the game finished and the dust has settled now? How do you feel about our chances in Europe?
I think we'll go through in the quarters. I think semis is probably. I think if we get to the final, we win it. I think the toughest competition that we'll have will be in the semis. Like I was just speaking to you off camera as well. The final this year is going to be at Bilbao's home stadium. So coming up against them in the semis, they're going to bring everything they've got into that game to make it into the final and eventually win it. So I'm not that fussed about Lyon, because I think when it comes to Ligue 1, there are only a couple of teams right now who are doing fairly decent and are actually well drilled quality sides. I think when you look at Lyon, they are not a team that scare me that much, barring a couple of players. When you look at them defensively, when you look at their midfield, they are very light, and so Lyon doesn't really bother me as much. I think Bilbao or whoever we actually end up coming up against in the semis is going to be the toughest team that we might face in the tenure of this competition. And the other thing that I also thought was the one game that we don't do a review of ends up being one of the best games of the season.
I know. But
Yeah.
to kind of caveat that, I was there at the stadium in the Stretford end watching these goals go in. So in a way, it's kind of like, it's good either way. I thought not only just the performance in general, because having gone 1-0 down, typically there is a nervousness around Old Trafford where people are a bit anxious and a bit like, ooh, but there wasn't that. We went 1-0 down and everyone was like still getting behind the lads still, and then obviously getting that penalty back helps immediately. And then getting another penalty on top of that, you're like, okay, right, well, we're going another one up. And then I feel like the extra bits just give that added confidence. I thought that, for example, Aiden Heaven coming in, bought for 1 million. That was his, making his first senior start for United in his career in the Europa League, and stepped up really, really well in the absence of Yoro and Lisandro Martinez. What did you make of his performance?
I think it was a very mature performance, I would say. Yeah. Once again, people say that Sociedad aren't really a tough team, but to be very honest, it was a high pressure game for us. If I have to look into United, since Amorim has taken over, we have actually gotten a better record against top sides. We've had better performances against top sides. It is these mid table clubs, in between 8th to 12th position that seem to trouble us the most. So Sociedad are a similar team, and they are definitely a team who we aren't really that successful against in European competitions. So to take the game against them after being a goal down and beating them the way we did, for the first time the team looked on the same page. They look quite collected. They look very synchronized, and this is one thing that was missing for quite some time. That this was the first time I saw attack and it looked coordinated whenever they were moving the ball forward. I know Højlund didn't bag a goal, but I think it was possibly Højlund's best game of the season so far.
Yeah,
the way he
I was
played
just about
yesterday.
to ask you about him actually. I think in the first half, especially, you could see he was running channels. He was sacrificing himself for the team. He was putting his body on the line, doing everything that you wanted, rather than just kind of. It feels like a lot of the time we watch Rasmus, he's spending the majority of time wrestling with centre backs and getting involved in tangles that you don't really want to.
Yeah, and because I think this was the first time I saw Højlund actually playing to his strengths, making those channel runs, making those clever runs into the box, actually interlinking play quite well alongside Xerxes and alongside Garnacho as well. Looked very well. Him and Bruno looked very good as a partnership as well. Whenever Bruno was making runs as well, he was able to find him, allowing spaces for Xerxes to appear as well in quite a lot of situations in yesterday's game. So it looked a very good game. Just the goal was left. Apart from that, I think Højlund was actually very, very decent yesterday. Xerxes was phenomenal. No, yesterday again.
It was that period with Xerxes, you know what I'm on about, where it was the left side, he brought it down, nutmegged the player, I think, and then bombed the forward with it. It was just like, on the ball, from a technical point, he's class in it, Xerxes.
It was a very elegant performance, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, every touch was classy, every pass that he made was very classy, and just cool, calm, and composed whenever he was on the ball.
He's adapting as well, I feel like, though, as well. I feel like he's dealing with
Yeah,
players a lot
because
better.
earlier on he used to get brushed off a lot, but
Yeah.
I think he's slowly adapting and growing into the role, especially as that second 10, and I think he fits like a glove in that position as well.
Yeah.
Bruno, once again, I mean,
we'll get on to Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've got a whole section dedicated to him. That's fine. I
Yeah.
just wanted to go on about Garnacho on the right hand side as well, because
Again.
I think he started against Sociedad in the first leg, then he started against Arsenal, and I think Amarin said it was his best game he's seen since he's took over from him individually. Obviously, we got Ahmad out for the rest of the season. It seems like Dorgu and Xerxes
Fingers
working.
crossed if he makes it for the final.
Hopefully, if we make it to the final, hopefully he's available. But you've got Dorgu, Xerxes on that left-hand side, which seems to be something there as well when Bruno drifts there. But he looks better on the right, Garnacho, and he seems to be getting assists from there as well. Someone made the point of, I don't know if it was one of you guys in the chat, where it's like, because he's on the right, he's more likely to assist. When he's on the left and he's cutting in, he's going to shoot in it. When he's on the right, he seems, I don't know.
One thing about Garnacho is, especially whenever he is on the left, his instinct is definitely to shoot, but he relies more on his body placement. He doesn't, rely on his footwork a lot.
Yeah.
He tries to open up his body and then try to curl the ball in. And whenever you do try to open up your body, definitely, it helps you get an edge over the keeper. But it takes 4 to 5 seconds more to actually place your body in that direction. And that's when the keeper always closes him down. That's why he's not that great when it comes to 1v1s against the keeper. On the right hand side, he looks more like a threat. I think over the past few months he started to cross the ball a lot more into the box, and he's tried to become a bit more creative. I think one thing is certain, that once he actually works on his finishing a bit more, he becomes a bit more clinical while he's in and around the box. I think he can prove to be a very, very deadly player. But he's still very, very young. He's got more things to incorporate into his locker, but I think his performances have been on the rise. He's become more consistent, and one thing that we've always wanted from Garnacho is that he's relentless for sure, but you want him to be in the right areas. You want him to make the correct decisions when he's in those areas, because still, if you look at our front three, he's the one who's in the best positions in every single game.
And he's so direct as well, because you've got Xerxes dropping, you've got Højlund who's wrestling with centre backs a bit. He's the one who, when he picks it up, which you saw for the Bruno goal, which he assisted him with, he drives at defenders. He makes them go under the back foot, and he'll cut in, and then that's where the Bruno overlap kind of run comes in, where he feeds him in. I feel like he's starting to mature slightly in this system. I wasn't too sure about him first, but I don't know. It's got that feeling.
I think it will take him time. I knew that he could grow into this system because he's a young player. That's something that really works for him, is that he's still just 20 or 21 years old.
Yeah.
So it is much more easier for him to actually mold his game style a bit differently to fit into United. And I think if he continues to do so, still the ceiling is the limit for Garnacho. The kind of goals that he's already scored in his career at United, they're not easy goals to score, and he's gotten now 16 goal contributions across all competitions now, 16 or 17. So he's already having perhaps one of his best seasons till now at United, and he could easily hit 20 or 24, 25 by the time the season still ends. So there is I think there is genuinely still a lot more to come from Garnacho, not just on the creative side, but I think even as a goal scorer, there is still a lot more that is going to be coming in for him. But we need to be very, very patient with him, because he's going to make a lot of mistakes, which he definitely has made in the past few weeks as well. The one he made against Tottenham, where he just skied the ball up, which should have been an easy tap in. So these moments are going to come a lot, but we need to be patient with him, because once he gets to those points where the probability becomes from 40-60 to 70-30, he's going to be a lot more reliable for us.
It's the assists that I'm impressed with the most, because as you know, and you've done it yourself, when you watch him at times, you're pulling your hair out because he's not playing the right pass or putting the right cross in at the right time, decision making. But now on that right hand side, obviously he got the assist for Xerxes in the first game, was it? And then he's starting to get more and more now, and kind of adding more things to his game, which is really, really nice to see. But in general, I thought that the team as a whole, Shreyas, played with freedom. There was happiness, it seemed, in and out of possession. You had the wing backs who were doing the jobs down to a T. You got the captain, Bruno. I mean, where on earth would we be with that? Honestly, I feel like we say this every single week, right? But just listen to these stats. Bruno Fernandes now has the most goal involvements in Europa League history with 41, 24 goals and 17 assists. He's got 15 goals and 13 assists this season. He got asked about the criticism from Roy Keane last night. He says, no, everyone has an opinion. That's fine. I can't change the opinions of people. Every time I go on the pitch, I try to do the best I can for the club. Roy Keane was an amazing captain, one of the best for the club. He's massively respected by everyone, and he has all my respect. So it's very easy to take a bite back there or do a bit of a shush, or do you know what I mean? But he's staying class. He's doing his job on the pitch, and that is exactly what you want from a captain, innit?
Yeah, and once again, it was a captain's performance from him. He's been doing it week in, week out now, and he's gotten 31 or 30 goal contributions already this season.
Yeah.
In this United setup, where he's not even playing in an advanced role anymore. He's playing more deep. So to do what he's doing, once again, I hope he still stays for us next season, because, once again, you never really know if something very decent comes onto the table for United, especially, with the way Ineos have been working. If someone comes in for Bruno Fernandes and goes, I'm here, I'm going to put in 9...
example. You mean something like that? Like if a big offer comes on the table. But I think with him just signing a new deal recently, I just think I don't know. I think he'll be here for at least a few years.
I hope so.
Yeah.
The thing is, when it comes to United, at the moment, we don't have that many high-performing players. And if other teams do look at Bruno, they're going to go, okay, maybe sometimes he won't be at the races, but he'll still end the season with around 30-35 goal contributions.
And goals and assists.
So the amount of output he generates, and the amount of output he generates, no other midfielder does. Honestly, no other midfielder produces the stats that Bruno does on a regular basis. So I hope he stays, because I think when you do get a fully functioning team around him, like competent players who fit the system, who know where to be in and around the box whenever Bruno is on the halfway line trying to play a through pass, I think his stats are only going to get better and better. So for that, we do need to have the right players around him, because I still think Bruno can still stay at the club and play at the highest level for at least 3 more years, at least.
And people talk about penalties as well. They'll say like, oh, they're very easy. He's only scoring pens. I think he scored 9 in the Europa League, which is obviously contributed. But it's the high pressure situations. The first penalty that he took was in front of the Stretford end, and we'd 1-0 down by that point as well already. So the pressure was huge. Scores that. He literally just fucking strolls it in. You watch both the penalties back. He just passes it in the net like it's nothing. So taking that pressure as well is another thing, because obviously United is a giant pressure cooker, the biggest one probably in world football, right? And he's wearing the armband of that club, so you can't even describe how intense it is for him. I'd imagine on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis. So for him to do that and deliver is hugely fucking impressive to me.
It is, and I think it's a very weak argument to say that he only scores pens, because Cole Palmer scores pens.
Yeah.
Salah scores pens. You take Salah's penalty goals out of this season, he's not even in that Ballon d'Or conversation anymore. Haaland misses penalties on a regular basis. He's had a very bad record at pens this season. So you just saw the Atleti and Real Madrid game as well. Vinicius had a crap penalty. So and these are top players in Europe right now. And even they bottle it at the highest moments, at the highest of occasions, in the biggest competitions. So I don't think it's a strong argument to say he only gets goals because he is on pens.
Yeah.
We've seen players of much higher caliber actually bottling pens and eventually, missing out on trophies. So to do what he's doing and to have, I would say, the accuracy and, success rate that he's had at penalties is not easy to have either.
Yeah. The main thing I took away, and we'll move on to the Quenda news and Thomas Tuchel in a moment. The main thing I took away from yesterday was I think like everyone had a good game. Everyone. Yeah. So I was going through the team yesterday. I was like, Casemiro, he's kind of...
The tackle he made after Dalot did that mistake.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a new role or, like, I haven't got my coaching license, so I can't really tell specifically what it is. but it seems like the spaces aren't as large for him to cover. And when he's got a bit of protection and he can be a little bit more pragmatic with his role, he seems to perform better. And he looks a bit more solid now, and he's getting more game time. Because the thing is with Casemiro, when you watch him, he takes too much time on the ball at times, especially if he's just coming into the team. He's very stale, and people can pick his pocket. You saw Newcastle, for example, that was awful game from him.
Yeah.
But you watched him yesterday, the output that he's doing in terms of tackles and shielding, perfect, which allows Bruno to press forward a little bit. And then you've got Dorgu on the left-hand side, who I thought had probably his best performance. I know he's only had 4 or 5 games, but I thought he was really good. He was causing problems every time he got it, winning penalties or not winning penalties, which he was a bit modest for. You go throughout the full team, everyone had a really, really good performance. And it's finally got to a level where we've endured so much shit this season. Hopefully, I don't want to say it. I'm not using the phrase "turned a corner" because we haven't turned a corner. But there's something there in it to go on. There's something there to work with in this system.
Yeah, it is. And look, people have blamed Amorim a lot as well for sticking to his system, for sticking to this formation. And you can see that it does work. It's not like, it's not going to work. You can see Crystal Palace using a similar formation and actually beating teams convincingly. So I think you put the right players. I think this next summer is going to be very crucial for us. I think that is something which might define Amorim's future, because if you don't give him the right players in the summer, I think that's when, it's going to be warning signals once again, and you're going to be in a similar position come Christmas next year.
Well, you just give me the perfect segue, Mr. Singh. One might say you've done it on purpose, but I'll take it. Quenda to Chelsea. Where on earth, how on earth has this happened? You're speaking about recruiting the right players. Quenda seemed like he was absolutely nailed on a couple of months ago. Loads of people reporting it. Strong outlets from Portugal, including Romano, I think, touched on it as well. It seemed like it was, we were just going to sign him in the summer. Pretty much deal done and dusted. Chelsea are fucking swooped in. And we got news this morning that they've completed a deal for him, with the player also completed his medical as well. What's going on?
I have a first question to you. Why do Chelsea need another winger?
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? It's like, are they going to use him as a winger though? Or are they going to use him as a...
Malo Gusto, they won't use him as a right back either.
I don't know.
And they still got Reece James at the club.
It's bizarre. Chelsea are just a weird fucking
Where is he going to be playing? And they've already got enough players in the attack.
I think it's more for him. If you look at the deal, he got like an 8-year deal, right? 7-8-year deal, something like that. I think for these kind of players who are young, I think they're looking at it as like a career thing. Like, that's you sorted for the next decade almost on a wage. You know what I mean? That's your future sorted. I don't know if that plays into it too much, but maybe with him being a bit young, I'm sure he's got agents and people around him who are looking after him. But for me, I don't know. I just thought with Amorim there, obviously we're desperate for a right wing back. I don't know who we go and get now. I don't know who the alternative target is.
I think there will be, for sure. Dorgu came out of nowhere. So, and there are definitely going to be more players to look at, when we go deep into it, especially for wing backs. We've seen alternatives when you look at the left, and some very good alternatives. When you look at the right hand side as well, there's going to be a lot of options when you do go deep. If you go into the Italian league, you look into La Liga for that matter as well. You look at the French league, there are definitely players who can come in and do a job for you. The only thing is, Quenda was a player who we already knew what to expect from him, because he's played under Amorim, so you know what kind of player he is, what sort of positions he can actually play, and what sort of impact he would bring into the team. With the others, it will take us time to assess as to what capacity they're going to be playing in, and you never know. Maybe we end up being in a situation where we might actually get another left back, another wing back in on the left hand side, and rely on Mazraoui to actually play in that position, because once again we're strapped for cash at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a bit good about that. I'm not gonna lie, because he was like the number one kind of priority that I'm looking at.
Pick anyone though as that right wing back. Like, now the Quenda is gone, who would you bring?
I don't know if I would necessarily bring in a wing back specifically, but let's say, for example, you can go get, I don't know, Brian Mberno from Brentford, right? You bring him in and then you push Ahmad out to wing back, because Ahmad can clearly do that role, right? He's good at it. He's got the defensive work rate. He's got the ability on the ball. and he's got the threat as well when we're going forward. So I don't know if you need to recruit specifically for that, but I think that hybrid winger who also has that defensive side to him, you can go and get. So, and Burma, I'm a big fan of. I really like. Whether it's Amarin priority or if he feels he's a fit, I'm not sure. But he's someone who, if you look at for Brentford, has played about 9 different positions for them on the wing as a 9, second striker, you name it, he's done it.
Yeah.
So as an actual fit, that's someone probably who I would see. But I don't know this. But have you got anyone in mind?
Frimpong.
Yes, Frimpong is a great shout. How I didn't think of him in the first place, I don't know, because I really, really like Jeremy Frimpong. But then, how do you convince, for example, Frimpong to join United in the state we're in at the minute? Do you think it would be easier?
I think it will be more. I think a move to the Premier League entices every player, especially ones in the Bundesliga and in the Serie A. That's why we still generate a lot of buzz. We've seen teams like Brentford pull players like Damsgaard from Roma. So we definitely have a lot of pull. And apart from
with
that,
Evan Nilsson from Porto.
Yeah. And Evan Nilsson is actually a very, very decent player.
Yeah.
You know, Kluivert came through for them as well last season. So I think if we do present with the right offer, I think Frimpong still has a release clause of around 50 or 55 mil in the summer window. So look, if he does come in, I think him and Ahmad can cause quite some damage on that right hand side because both of them are rapid, and Frimpong has played once again variety of positions on the left hand side, on the right hand side as the attacker, in the midfield. So highly versatile player, explosive wing back. I think right now Frimpong could be a very good choice for us to go for.
Yeah, I like that shout. If anyone else has any shouts in the chat, please do throw them in. Charlie saying, also being on the right side, Garnacho does not run into Dogu's position. We got a left and right wingers. It's also Dalot's strengths as well. Really, how have we messed that up? That's from Ablees 2009, I think, in regards to the Quenda deal. I don't know. I think for United, it was more PSR regulations and having to sell players in the summer to buy. I think that's what it was down to, basically.
The thing was,
Chelsea just
as
came
far
in
as I
and
read it,
there you go, mate.
Yeah, as far as I read it, it said that United could sign Quenda, but they could only do it once they actually offloaded a couple players in the summer.
Yeah.
Chelsea swooped very, very fast on this.
Yeah. Charlie's saying we already have someone who could play Quenda role in Ahmad. I agree. Nacho seems more of a team player on the right. That's from Alex. And also Ahmad's good at dueling. His switch of pace catches player off guard. I can't wait for him to get back, by the way. I'm gutted he's injured at the minute, because I feel like going into these last stages of the Europa League, that finer quality can be the difference in games, and not have it like Bilbao with Nico Williams, for example.
Exactly.
Kind of jack in a box who can just do something each game. Obviously, we've got Bruno who's doing bits at the minute, but yeah, I hope he can return to near the end of the season, which Amri did hint towards in one of his press conferences. So yeah, speaking of press conferences.
We still have, you could say, one jack in the box coming through. We just don't know how long he'll stay fit.
Who are you on about?
Mason Mount.
Oh, Mason Mount. Yeah, of course. Well, he might be back for the Leicester game. We play Leicester on Sunday, right? Could be back for that on the bench, which should be interesting. Let's see how long he lasts for. Yeah, we are going to have Friday, such a busy day today. I completely forgot. We've got to do the Leicester preview later on today. We'll have Premier League predictions as well, and a load of other stuff coming your way over the weekend. So please do smash the like of the video, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, mentioning press conferences, Thomas Tuchel took his first one for England, Shreyas. And one of the biggest things coming out of that, which is in relation to Manchester United, is that Marcus Rashford is back in England's squad for the upcoming internationals. Luke Shaw, Maguire, Mount and Mainu miss out, obviously, due to injury. But on Rashford, he said, I had the strong feeling we should nominate him to push him to stay on that level, to not fall back on old routines. He also spoke about his work rate off the ball at Villa, basically saying that his application is much better and he seems to be working harder and he likes what he's seeing. Rashford took to Twitter and said, never stop believing, can't wait to get started. Can you see a world where he's in the World Cup featuring and doing well?
But only if he doesn't stick at United. Because I think one thing that really works in his favor at Aston Villa is he's not the player who, everything relies on. I think whenever he's at United, especially during the last couple of seasons, he's the senior figure and he's the one who the attackers actually look to when things get hard. And I've said it a lot of times, Rashford is not that player who can carry the team on his back by himself. He needs other players. He can be a supporting player, and he can do an exceptional job as that player. But to be as that focal point, as that ace player, like City have Haaland, Liverpool have Salah. He's not that player. He's genuinely not. But at Villa at the moment, they've got other players who carry that mantle on them. Ollie Watkins is there. You got Leon Bailey in there. You got John McGinn, who's does a very decent job for them. Morgan Rogers has been absolutely phenomenal for Villa this season. And then this season they've, I think they got Marlon in as well in this window. So Marlon is definitely a good signing.
Asensio's fucking killing it for a minute. My God.
Asensio and then Rashford. And Asensio and Rashford form a very, very, very good partnership.
Yeah.
The thing that really helps Asensio is Asensio throughout his career has been that, inside 10. During his time at Madrid as well, as that right winger, as the 10, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And his first touch is probably one of the best in Europe. And the way Rashford actually finds him in the box every single time. It's the way, we've always known with Rashford, he does have the ability and the talent. He's just not someone who can carry the pressure of being the best player on the pitch week in and week out, which he had at Manchester United, because the pressure at United is definitely something different. And when you become that number one guy, especially after that 30 goal season that Rashford had, the responsibility and the expectation was just too much from, on him, I would say. And at Villa, it is completely different. I think right now, even, if he does end up signing in at Villa on a permanent next season, if he still, comes up with like 10 goals and 5 assists throughout the career, throughout the season, it won't be looked at as a failure of a season. If he does the same at United, like he gets 15 goal contributions throughout the season, it is not looked at as a good season.
I think with Rashford and any players at the minute who leave Manchester United just seem to... We speak about Anthony as well. Yeah, in the chat before. Like, Anthony's just getting goals and assists every single game for Betis at this moment. Like, any player who leaves... Well, Jadon Sancho being the exception, because he's the only one who's left and he's still shit. Which tells
he's the
everything
only one where Chelsea are even looking at going, we are ready to face all the penalties and consequences, but we don't want to sign him on a permanent.
Yeah, you can have him back, mate. We'll pay whatever. We'll pay you to have him back at your club. And the United like, no, we don't want him. You can take him, mate. But with Rashford, it's only good news in it. If they're going into England, if they're performing well for the other clubs, it's only good for us, because that means money in our back pocket. As ruthless as that might sound, I know Rashford came through the academy, but at the minute we're trying to focus on the future and going forward. And if players like that are performing and we can get Rashford, good, decent 60, money,
65 million,
it makes the summer
world of difference.
Much better. Because we just talk about Quenda then, how we might have not had the funds and we need to shift a few things about. When we get into the summer, we move Anthony on and Rashford and players like this. Like, the gap gets... Not only that, with Lindelof, Eriksen, and there's a couple others, I think, leaving as well on a free. Their wages go off the bill. Then the focus in the summer becomes pretty important and pretty, like, you've got a good standard of players that you can go and get. And especially on top of that, if you go and win the Europa League and you get Champions League football, times that by 2. Because the revenue that you get in, the prospects of attracting players, like Gyökeres, for example, has spoken multiple times how he wants Champions League football, right? You get that, that might open the door again to go and get someone like him and bring him in, which will make a huge, significant difference to this team. So it's interesting that these next 3 months, Shreyas, now with the Europa League, obviously the Premier League's pretty much done, but with the transfer window slowly appearing as well, you've got Tuchel going with international football. Some interesting topics, isn't there, in the future?
I think the next couple of months are probably going to be, for us, I would say, the most interesting and the most strenuous as well, because I'm sure there will be something popping off after every single match game, especially when it comes to transfers. And apart from that as well, I feel a lot more positive going into this window, because if we can do what we did in this summer window, if we can replicate that in the next window as well, I think we'll be in a much better position than we are right now. If you can get in 4 signings, but I would say even if we get just 3 signings, but all 3 of them actually work out and can have an impact on us, it can do a lot of difference to us. The only thing is who we buy and how much we end up paying for them.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
Almost feel, I know, like we say this every year, but it's almost like the most important summer for United, isn't it? Going into this one, it feels like the there's something there to work with Amarin now. You're starting to see his style, and obviously there's only one player that he's brought in, but you've seen instantly from Dorgu, 25 million, and the impact he's having at the minute, and you know the role that he's playing, he fits it. You get a few more of them in, you'll see more of a shift in the way we're playing, more. You know what Amarin's actually trying to do with the squad.
You get a striker in, you get a wing back in, and you get another midfielder in. It's going to, you know, the complexion of the team will automatically change.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably a good place to leave it because we've got a lot of content dropping today. Like I said before, Premier League predictions. We've got the Leicester City preview. We play them away on Sunday, I think. And then we've got other bits as well that's dropping. So please do. These 12 o'clock shows are coming back regular as well, by the way. 12 o'clock and 7 o'clock every single day. I'm going to make sure of that. And also members' videos as well. So please do smash like and video, subscribe to the channel and share to a friend. And me and Shreyas will see you guys in the next one. Appreciate you.